The night was a heavy, suffocating blanket stretched over the desert highway, broken only by the cold neon sign of the Iron Horse Saloon. Inside, the air was thick with smoke, cheap whiskey, and the oppressive silence that follows a presidential edict. The entire chapter of the Vigilantes MC, one of the oldest, most respected and most feared motorcycle clubs in the West, was gathered, their faces grim, their patches glowing faintly under the dim red lights. At the head of the table sat Deacon, the president. Deacon wasn't a man who sought violence, but violence certainly sought him. He had the measured calm of a bomb technician, but the history of a kingmaker. He was the center point of their moral compass, the man who enforced the old code: protect the weak, never betray the brotherhood, and honor the patch above all. Tonight the code was tearing itself apart. The source of the conflict sat meekly in a corner booth. Lila. She was the 20-year-old daughter of an old, deceased club prospect, a girl who had grown up in the shadow of the MC, but had tried desperately to build a life clean of its dust. She worked at a truck stop diner, saved her tips, and was quiet. Too quiet. Lila had witnessed a crime, not a petty bar brawl or a back alley deal, but something heinous, something that chipped away at the foundation of civil society. She had seen Vice, the Vigilantes' own sergeant-at-arms, a man whose loyalty to the club was legendary, brutally eliminate an informant who was on the verge of exposing a local politician, a politician who happened to be deep in the pocket of the Vigilantes MC, protecting their territories and their freedom. The informant wasn't the problem. The informant was dirt. The problem was that the informant wasn't alone. An innocent mother, passing by in her car, had stopped when she saw the commotion. She had tried to help the dying man, and Vice, in his cold, professional panic, had taken her life too, making it look like a tragic accident. Lila had seen the whole thing: the flashing lights, the cold precision of Vice's movements, and the unnecessary death of an innocent woman. And now, Lila had come to Deacon, not to the police. She came to him because she believed in the Vigilantes' old code, the moral spine of a group the world dismissed as monsters. She believed that even the most hardened outlaw had a line he wouldn't cross. Deacon slammed his fist down on the table, making the glasses jump. Silence! The room, already heavy, grew colder. The woman was collateral damage. A mistake, Vice argued, his voice low and dangerous, his eyes fixed on Lila with murderous intent. Vice was a massive man, driven by a raw, unfiltered devotion to the club's survival. She jeopardized the whole operation. She saw my face. If she lives, the politician pulls out, the territory is lost, and we all face RICO charges that would bury this club for good. I did what needed to be done for the brotherhood. She was an innocent mother, Vice. Deacon countered, his voice steady, refusing to rise to the bait. The code says, protect the weak, not bury the innocent to cover our tracks. You crossed the line. The line is drawn by the man wearing the patch, Prez, Vice roared, standing up, his chair scraping violently across the concrete floor. My conscience serves the club. Yours is serving that little snitch. He gestured contemptuously toward Lila. The core dilemma hung in the air. If Deacon hands Vice over, the club is safe from Vice's uncontrolled brutality, upholding their moral code. But the politician goes down with Vice, the territories are lost, and the Vigilantes MC is left exposed, vulnerable to rival gangs and the full force of the law. The club will be shattered. If Deacon protects Vice, the club survives, strong and wealthy. But their moral soul is lost, replaced by the ugly cynicism of true criminals. The code will be broken forever. Deacon looked around the room. The faces of his brothers were mirrors of the conflict. Some, the old guard, nodded grimly, knowing Vice had sacrificed honor for practicality. Others, the younger, hungrier members, looked at Vice with respect. He had secured their future, albeit with blood. Deacon knew he couldn't survive this choice intact. The choice was between the institutional life of the club and the moral life of his own soul. Lila, Deacon said, turning his gaze to the trembling girl, you understand what you're asking? You understand that turning in a patched member, especially a SAA, means the club will be dismantled? Your father died a prospect of this club. This is your home too. Lila looked at Deacon, her eyes pleading for him to choose the path of light. even if it meant ruin. He was supposed to protect us, Deacon, not murder us. If the patch means defending men like Vice, then the patch is dirt, and if you let him go, you're no better than him. That was the truth, the agonizing, unavoidable truth. Deacon turned back to Vice. The road justice isn't just for others, Vice. It starts with us. You broke the code. You dishonored the patch. You brought innocent blood onto our ground. That's an unforgivable offense. Vice took a threatening step forward. If you choose her over me, Prez, you choose the end of the Vigilantes. You'll be the president who destroyed his own club. Deacon stood up, his height dominating the room. His hand rested lightly on the Colt Python holstered at his hip. If I choose you, Vice, the Vigilantes are already dead. We just don't know it yet. A wave of tension, sharp and electric, passed through the room. Deacon had made his choice. The club was about to tear itself apart, not over territory or money, but over conscience. The true fight for the soul of the Vigilantes MC had just begun. He had chosen the moral ruin of the institution over the spiritual ruin of his own soul. But the consequences of that choice would be immediate and lethal. The silence shattered like glass. Vice, fueled by panic and betrayal, didn't wait for a direct command. He lunged, a bull of a man, his target not Deacon, but Lila. He intended to silence the witness before the consequences of Deacon's moral stand could take root. But Reckoning, the club's oldest patched member and a man whose loyalty was only eclipsed by his adherence to the old code, was faster. Reckoning, his eyes blazing with the fire of a righteous zealot, intercepted Vice, his aging body slamming into the sergeant-at-arms. The two men crashed over the main table, splintering wood and sending broken bottles scattering. The fight for the soul of the Vigilantes MC had just turned into a civil war in the heart of the Iron Horse Saloon. The room erupted. The younger, profit-driven members, who saw Vice as the guarantor of their luxurious criminal enterprise, drew weapons and sided with the SAA. The old guard, those who had sworn an oath not just to the brotherhood, but to the honor of the patch, rallied around Deacon. "Protect Lila! Get her out!" Deacon roared, pushing the trembling young woman behind him as he drew his Colt Python. The old guard formed a shield of leather and steel, trading blows and gunfire with their former brothers. Jester, a skinny prospect who had seen his own family victimized by men like Vice, shoved Lila toward the back exit. "Go, I'll buy you time." Jester, armed only with a tire iron, hurled himself into the melee, a sacrificial lamb ensuring the escape. Deacon knew Jester's fate was sealed, but that prospect's final, selfless act, protecting an innocent, was the truest definition of the Vigilantes' code he had ever seen. Deacon locked eyes with Vice, who had finally thrown Reckoning off him, his face a mask of pure, murderous rage. "You chose wrong, Deacon. You chose ruin," Vice bellowed, charging through the smoke and flashing gunfire. "I chose honor, Vice. Something you forgot how to spell." Deacon didn't fire. He knew a clean shot would solve the problem instantly, but it wouldn't resolve the moral debt. This wasn't a fight for territory. It was a demonstration of road justice. He needed to prove beyond a doubt that the code was sovereign. He ducked a wild swing from Vice and grabbed a heavy-duty motorcycle chain from a nearby rack. Deacon wasn't the strongest, but he was the smartest. He let Vice's reckless momentum carry him, and then, with the practiced skill of a lifelong street fighter, he wrapped the chain around Vice's legs, yanking hard. Vice crashed to the floor, his head hitting the edge of a booth with a sickening thud. He was down, but not out. "He's mine!" Deacon yelled, pushing away one of Vice's supporters who was trying to fire. Meanwhile, Jester had successfully created a breach. Lila slipped out the back door, disappearing into the darkness just as the first wail of police sirens began to approach. Someone, likely one of the younger Reapers, who still held a vestige of fear for the law, had called them. Deacon looked at Vice, who was struggling to rise, his eyes clearing with renewed lethal focus. There was no time for a trial, no time for the intricate internal process of the MC justice system. The law was coming, and if they found Vice on the premises, the entire club would be tainted by his monstrous actions. Deacon had to finalize his decision now. He threw his Python aside. This wasn't a punishment to be meted out by a bullet. It was a forfeiture of rights. He dragged Vice out the back door and into the deserted alleyway where their bikes were parked. Vice, dazed, thrashed wildly, but Deacon's strength was supernatural, drawn from the desperate necessity of his purpose. "The woman you killed had a son, Vice," Deacon whispered, pressing his full weight onto the man's throat. "You killed her for your greed. That makes you a predator, not a vigilante." Vice spat blood. "It makes me a leader. It makes me rich. You can't stop this, Deacon." "The money is already moved." "Maybe not the money," Deacon replied, his voice heavy with finality, "but the truth." Deacon reached into his cut and, with a grim determination, tore the Vigilantes MC patch from his own chest. He looked at the intricately stitched leather, the symbol of everything he had lived and bled for, and dropped it onto the dirt next to Vice. He then reached for Vice's patch and tore that one off too, ripping the thick threading that had held it to the cut for years. "You are no longer a vigilante," Deacon stated, his voice devoid of emotion. "The patch is dishonored. You are out." He didn't need to kill Vice. The road justice he sought was more profound, more painful. He tied Vice up and dragged him back inside the saloon, placing him next to the body of the original informant Vice had killed. He set a flare next to the victims, its red light bathing the tableau in a lurid glow, ensuring the police would find everything: the evidence, the killer, and the motive. As the sound of approaching sirens grew deafening, Deacon stepped outside. He looked back at the Iron Horse Saloon, the place that had been his home, his fortress, his life. It was over. The Vigilantes MC would be investigated, dissolved, scattered to the winds. He had chosen the ruin of his family for the salvation of their code. He found Reckoning, bleeding heavily but alive, outside the back entrance. Reckoning looked at Deacon, a profound respect in his eyes. "You chose right, Prez," Reckoning choked out, grasping his hand. "The code lives, even if the club doesn't." Deacon didn't answer. He simply nodded, helping Reckoning onto his bike. He didn't wait for the police. He didn't wait for applause. He mounted his own iron horse and rode off into the enveloping darkness, the sound of the police sirens drowning out the final defiant rumble of his engine. The Vigilantes MC was gone, dismantled by its own president, not by the law. But out in the night, a witness was free, an innocent woman was avenged, and the truth would finally surface. Deacon was now an outlaw without a club, a criminal on the run, but as he disappeared over the horizon, he was something far more important, an unexpected hero, guided by the hardest choice of conscience.